Hey guys. Before we get into worship, I just want to have us stand up and I'm going to pray over us because we forgot to pray beforehand too, even though we talked about it. We don't come here tonight just to see each other and hang out, have fun. It's all a part of that, but the deeper things happen in here where we get to worship together as a young adult group. And so, just with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, just pray with me tonight. Father, I pray that as we sing, that you're able and that you save us and you're great. And we worship you tonight with everything that we have. That any distractions or things that are hinging us and prohibiting us from giving you everything we have tonight, God, that you get rid of them, that you expose them. So, Father, as we sing tonight, convict us, encourage us to sing with everything we have. In Jesus' name, amen. And sing it, God is able. God is able. He will never fail. He is almighty. See God's great. Greater than all we see. Greater than all we ask. He has done great things. See ya. Lift it up. Defeated the grave. Raised to life. Our God is able. In His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. See how He's on our side. God is with us. He is on our side. He will make a way. Far above all we know. Far above all we know. He has done great things. See that? Lifts it up. Defeated the grave. Brings to life. Our God is able. In His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. For the Lord our God is able. See that like God is with us. And God is with us. He will go before. He will never leave us. He will never leave us. God is for us. He will take them. He will never fail us. He will never fail us. God is with us. He will go before. He will never leave us. He will never leave us. God is for us. And He has opened arms. He will never fail us. He will never fail us. Lifts it up. Defeated the grave. Raised to life. Our God is able. In His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. Sing it again. Lifts it up. Defeated the grave. Raised to life. Our God is able. For His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. For the Lord our
Welcome to Coffee House. For our visitors, welcome. The reason that we started this group is that we want to reach people for Christ and help believers to grow more like Him. So as we come each week, as we are just getting started as low attendance week, what's most important as we get together is that we celebrate Christ. We spend this time worshiping Him. One thing that was told to me a long time ago, and I really loved this, is that focus on Christ, sing loud, who cares? It's not about us. It's not if you can sing, it's not if you can't sing. We have the volume way up. Thank you, Garrett, for filling in. Brittany normally leads, and she's off today, and it's amazing how last week God brought us somebody who can lead. How does this always happen? But we're very thankful that you all are here. For those of you, I guess really everybody else, was at our house on Sunday. Thank you for a crazy fun time. That was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. I'm sure we're going to do more things like that because Wendy's like, oh, it's going to be a while after the party though. She's like, oh, well, probably it'll be a while before we do this. And then sure enough, hey, what are you doing for football? And then I heard that other people want to keep watching football at my house. And I'm like, well, wait. If you're at my house, I'm watching football. If you're not, I'm probably watching Gilmore Girls. I'm in. I love football. So thank you all for being here. Let's spend this time really focusing on Christ. Use this next song to prepare your hearts. When we're done, then stay around, mingle, get to know each other, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to open us in prayer real quick. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this opportunity. We are thankful, Lord, that you have chosen us, that you have given us the opportunity to be here, Lord. I pray that as we sing this song, that we prepare our hearts, that we use this as a time to just get rid of the worries of this week, Lord. Get rid of the people who cut us off while we're driving, the people who annoyed us at work, the people who didn't act like we wanted them to, Lord. And we also ask forgiveness for the times that we didn't act the way that we should as well. So just use this time, Lord. It's in your name we pray.
no holds on me. Whom the Son set free, oh, is free indeed. Oh, it's free indeed. Oh, now rugged cross, my salvation. Where your love poured out over me. Now my soul cries out, hallelujah. Praise and honor unto me. Praise and honor. Praise and honor unto me. They worship a risen Christ. See the stone. See the stone is rolled away. Behold the empty tomb. Let's celebrate it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God be praised. He's risen from the grave. On that rugged cross, my salvation. Where your love poured out over me. Now my soul cries out, hallelujah. Praise and honor unto me. Praise and honor. Praise and honor unto me.
This week we are continuing, we've been doing the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. We are on faithfulness this week. Woohoo! Some of you know this, some of you don't. I come from two very broken homes. My mom cheated on my dad and several other fiancés. My dad then decided, after that destroyed our family, it'd be a good idea to then join the club and start cheating on my stepmom. There was an incredible lack of faithfulness in my family. I watched how families can be torn apart. I watched how pain and loneliness and all these things can happen when you lose faithfulness. I've watched it firsthand. I felt it firsthand. But then I met my God, and I found a true picture of faithfulness. I love just studying the history of the Bible because it's just interesting to see how things line up. And when you actually, if you read just a verse here and there, which if you're going to do anything, please read a verse at least. But if you only read a verse here, a story here, sometimes you miss, well, all of the time, what you miss is this continuity, and you miss this beautiful interweaving of all these stories that culminate into Jesus' whole ministry, his resurrection, and then the ministry that he started and then others continued. So with David, most everyone knows King David. Well, King David, before King David, when the land of Israel had its first king, it was King Saul, which we talked about. Well, King Saul was a very proud, violent, and jealous man. But he found favor in David. David, everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. Well, David conquered this giant, and that found favor in Saul's kingdom. So Saul took him in, and this poor shepherd boy, and I don't know if you all know this, but being a shepherd was about the lowest thing that you could do. It stinks. Try sleeping with animals all day. They didn't just put them in the barn and go home and take a shower. They slept on the ground without showers for months with these sheep. It is not the most glorious job you can think of. So for somebody to come from that background and be brought into the kingdom and to be this treasured one of the king, it's a big deal. But all of a sudden, David, who was put in charge of several battles, David kept conquering and winning and winning and winning. And that made Saul very jealous, because the women started singing, Saul has killed his thousands, David has killed 10,000s. Remember what I said about Saul? Prideful, violent man. So he started to try to kill David. So we see this pattern and pattern and pattern of Saul trying to kill David. Well, Saul had a son. He had more than one son, but Saul had a son who was very prominent in our story, and his son's name was Jonathan. Jonathan is the heir to the throne. I don't know if you've watched any of the old movies like Robin Hood, or any of the old shows where you'd watch Kings, Henry VIII, or any of these things where it's a big deal to have the kingdom. I mean, people kill other whole bloodlines so that their son can be the king. This is a big deal that Jonathan is the king, the prince that's about to be the king someday. So Jonathan and David become very good friends. And if you'll put up the first verse. In 1 Samuel, remember what was happening what was Saul trying to do to David? Kill him. His chosen one, the guy who has saved him time and again, gone into battles.
Didn't he also throw things at him
When he was playing the guitar, he threw a spear at his head and missed. So, yes. So Saul is trying to kill David, and Jonathan creates this little plan that why don't you not come to the big feast, and I'm going to go and see. I'm going to tell my dad that you're not here and see how it is. If he says, oh, it's okay, he's not feeling well, no, or he went to go see his family, not a big deal. But if he gets mad, run. Because he's going to try to kill you. Because Jonathan thought, surely my dad's not going to try to kill my best friend. So they have this dinner, he finds out, yes, Saul wants to kill him. So Jonathan basically meets him in secret to say, run. 1 Samuel 20, verses 42. Jonathan said to David, go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever. And then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town. So you see this friendship now, where Jonathan and David are basically swearing allegiance and saying, I don't care what happens, we are going to stay friends. So I told you about my past, how I come from a land of brokenness and unfaithfulness. 22 years of marriage later, it is a big deal to me that faithfulness reigns in my marriage. Period. It is so important to me to love, to honor, to cherish my wife. But it's rare outside of marriage to find a friend that you love like a brother or you love like a sister. Thankfully, God knew I needed that in my life, and he brought me a best friend. This man is somebody I would give my life for. I would gladly give anything I had to him. Every time I'm in need, he gives. Every time he's in need, I give. It is an amazing, amazing feeling to have faithfulness in your relationships. David runs away, hides in a cave. Saul goes after him, tries to kill him. Saul goes into the cave to go to the restroom, and David is there with his soldiers, sees him, cuts a piece of his robe, and then lets him go. So he doesn't kill him. He could have killed him. David could have killed the king, but he lets him go. And Saul goes out with his people, and then David comes out and starts screaming at Saul, Saul, I'm here. And he basically shows Saul Here is a piece of your robe. I could have just killed you. I'm not after you. Leave me alone. So, after David talks about all this, Saul asked, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" And he wept aloud. "You are more righteous than I." He said, "You have treated me well, but I have treated you badly." Next. "You have just now told me about the good you did for me. The Lord delivered me into your hands, but you did not kill me. And when a man finds his enemy, he does not get away. Does he let him get away unharmed?" So in other words, I'm not an enemy. "May the Lord reward you well for the way you have treated me. I know that you will surely be king, and the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hands. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will not kill off my descendants or wipe my name from my father's family." Interesting. Have you ever heard about near-death experiences? Yes? What happens after near-death experiences? "Oh, thank you, Lord, I'm going to be dedicated to you forever." Or the person that saves your life, "Oh, I love you." It's interesting that if someone is saved by someone of the opposite sex, it's very rare that the person who got saved falls in love with the person who saved him. I mean, it's very common, sorry. That you feel this emotion and this overwhelming experience. So here's Saul saying, "Oh, you saved me. I love you. May you be king in the future. And don't forget about my bloodline." And so he's making this long story. Well, Saul goes away. David goes away. So David gave his oath to Saul. He tries to kill him again. He goes and it doesn't work out. But David disappears. And he says, "I'm not going to come back until basically you're dead because you're evil." So David actually went, do you remember David and Goliath? Everyone heard that story? So Goliath was a what? Does anyone remember? So David killed the leader, the big giant Philistine, and that's where he went to go hide. He went to go live with the Philistines and basically became the commander of their army and started going to kill everybody. Because he said, "There's no way Saul's going to come after me here. If I'm with the Philistines, he's no longer worried about what?
Being hunted by Saul.
Saul's no longer worried that David's trying to get into his household and take over his throne and be the king of Israel. No, he's over now serving the king over of the Philistines. Oh, he's going to want to try to go get his kingdom instead. So Saul kind of leaves him alone. Fast forward. Saul and Jonathan die. They're killed in battle. I could tell you a long story. They got killed in battle. David found out, heartbroken for his best friend Jonathan. Here's the guy who saved him. But by the way, before David left, Jonathan basically said, "Here's my robe. Here's my kingdom." Jonathan said, "I'll step aside. You should be the king, not me." That's crazy. Imagine a millionaire saying, "You know what? I don't mind. Here's all my money. You be the leader of this company. You be the leader. I know I started this. I know I get all this stuff. Here, it's all yours." He freely gave it all up. So, as you can imagine, David is just heartbroken at this guy's death. Here's a friend who stood by him even when his dad was trying to kill him, even said, "You can have my birthright and you can be the next king." So David's sad. David goes back to Israel and everyone says, "You need to be the king. We always thought you were the greatest anyways. Go be the king." So David becomes the king of Israel. Y'all still with me? I know this is a lot of history. So David becomes the king of Israel now. Saul's dead. Jonathan's dead. And do you remember back when Saul was trying to kill David, Jonathan and David met, and Jonathan said, "I swear an oath to you." And they swore an oath to each other, that they will remember each other's descendants forever. So Jonathan's dead. About 5 years later, now go to the screen. David asked the people that were his trusted circle, is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Because a lot of these people had just been wiped out. A lot of his family was dead. Saul's family was dead. So he said, is there anybody left? Next. So they said, yes, Jonathan has a son who actually is lame. He has crippled feet, and because they were worried that they were going to get killed, he ran away with his nursemaid. She took him, and he fell and got injured and now can't even walk. I don't know if you know about the Bible days. It wasn't handicap friendly. There weren't wheelchairs that you could just go up a ramp. It was a curse, basically. A curse like you were the worst thing in the world to be crippled. So here is this guy who is the grandson of the king, who is living like trash. David finds him, and his name is Mephibosheth. So when Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, who is the grandson or the son of Saul, came to David, and he bowed down to pay him honor. And David said, Mephibosheth, at your service, he replied. And David said, don't be afraid. Now remember, he ran away thinking David's going to kill me. He ran away saying, my dad's dead, my grandfather's dead, my grandfather's trying to kill this man. David's recently been with the Philistines, who are our mortal enemies. I'm out of here. And now he's being summoned. So he's like, yes, at your service. And David said, don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul. Whoa. Did you hear that? I'm going to give you millions. You've been living in a cave, crippled, miserable, and I'm going to make you rich. And everybody is going to bow down to you. And you will always eat at the king's table. You will no longer be thought of as a second-class citizen. You are going to sit beside me. You are important. Why did he do that? Remember why he did that? What?
His oath with Jonathan.
His oath. Jonathan had this faithfulness to David, and because of that, David could have forgotten. Jonathan's dead. He didn't owe him anything. He could have forgotten. He could have just let it go, but he said, I am going to be faithful, and I remember my oath to you, and I'm going to take care of your son for the rest of his life. And the end of that story is, for the rest of his life, Mephibosheth, this little crippled man now, is rich and is sitting at the king's table every single day. And everybody knew that Mephibosheth was important. So that story, it's a neat story to watch. I mean, this is a lot. This is 2 books of the Bible I crammed into this much time. I understand that. But it's interesting to watch this because you get to watch a true friendship. So with us, why are we talking about the fruits of the Spirit? Because when Christ comes in, when he becomes Lord of your life, we're supposed to act like it. We're supposed to show faithfulness to one another. So how are you as a faithful friend? How are you as a faithful boyfriend or girlfriend? How are you as a faithful spouse? How are you as a faithful child? How are you as a faithful employee? We are called to be faithful. We're not called to be home wreckers. We're not called to be people that can't be trusted. We're called to be faithful. We're called to be faithful. We're called to be faithful. So we talked about this story of this great friendship, but the best part of this whole story is that there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother, which is Christ. So we talked about this. Jonathan was willing to give up his kingdom for David. Jesus was willing to give up his life for us. He was willing to give this up so that forever we can see his faithfulness. We can watch him work. We can watch him move. It's interesting in your life. I don't know about you, but I miss a lot of the great things that God's doing in my life often. I'm busy. My work is busy. My family is busy. My friends are busy. We have coffee. There's so much that's going on. I often miss what's going on until I can stop, take a moment, and look backwards. And I would ask you all of the same thing. Stop. Look. Where has God been faithful to you? Where did you ask him for something and he told you no? And at the time you're like, where's God? He must not be here. And he's saying, I haven't left. I haven't left. I won't ever leave. Friends may leave you. Your family may leave you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I will always be there to strengthen you and to comfort you. Think about where in your life that has happened. But then, so often as Christians, we don't do a good enough job of talking about those times with the people that are around us. We're scared to share our faith. We're scared to share the things. We don't want to be seen as weird. That was a big struggle for me. When I became a Christian, I was like, oh no, I'm a freak. Because most of the Christians I knew were freaks. I'm like, this is great. I'm so excited to lose all my friends and be considered the weird one. But it's amazing as I started not to just talk about, well, let me tell you in 1 Samuel, here's the story of David. There are times that are appropriate for that. But what I implore you to do, what I encourage you to do, is talk about the times God has been faithful in your life. That is how we reach people for Christ. We reach people for Christ by saying, I don't know about you, but my life has not been easy. Maybe yours has been a cakewalk. Mine has been hard. It's been so hard it's taken my breath away. But every time something just knocked the breath right out of me, Jesus breathed life back into me. Every time I got knocked down, Jesus picked me back up. Do you have that in your life? What happens when you get knocked down? Where can you run? Where can you turn? Where do you get that love? Where do you get that comfort? And the truth is, a lot of people say, I don't. There's so many people out there that are hurting. And by the way, let's just get this out here. I haven't stopped hurting since I became a Christian. Neither will you. Bad things will happen to us. I talked about this and showed Scripture. It's guaranteed to happen to us. Just because we became a Christian, that doesn't mean, hey, we became a Christian, so now it's all sunshines and lollipops all day, and we all get to stay in church all day and love each other. That's not how it works. But how it works is that God is faithful and just. That when he says that if we come to him and confess our sins, he's faithful and just and will forgive us of those sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Every single time. And that's the story that we need to share with people. That's the example. If we don't stand up and be the example of faithfulness, who's going to? If we don't stand up and show what 50 years of marriage is supposed to look like, who's going to? If we don't show what sticking by a friend when they've done something awful looks like, who's going to? Because if somehow my relationship with Christ is judged by my actions, I will fail. Thankfully, I'm not judged by my love for God or my faithfulness to God. I'm not at all. My relationship with God is about how He has been faithful every time that I act like an idiot. Every time that He's like, come on, let's go. Time to get in gear again. But I love that He loves me. I love that He'll walk me through this. And this is where I want to, the whole purpose of the fruits of the Spirit, the whole purpose of this lesson is that we need to take this message and share it. I'm not saying, because, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this to you. I have a shy daughter. Ashley is not, Ashley is not going to go out into the middle of the street at UT. You're going to hell if you don't believe! That is not her. That will never be her. Actually, I just kind of want to watch it just for fun. And because I know that I'm going to get in trouble for using my family as an example once again. But there are some people who don't want to share and go through, let me tell you the Romans road, and let me tell you all the tenets of my belief. I understand that that isn't going to be comfortable for some. That's not what Christ is asking of you. Do you know that? He's not saying, please go out on the street and beat people over the head with my word. He's never said that. What he said is, I'm going to indwell in you, and I'm going to give you the Spirit. And the Spirit of the Lord is going to come inside of you and be your conscience and direct you of how to act. Well, what's that? How am I supposed to act? With love, with joy, with peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That's our testimony. How do we reach people for Christ? By showing them what loyalty is. Please, in your relationships with your friends, with each other, show loyalty. I've been with my company for 15 years. I have seen awful behavior. I have wanted to run so many times. I've had my wife begging me to quit because I've been mistreated. And I'm not saying this works for everybody and please stay. And now am I saying, oh, look at me, I stayed when I was getting beat up. No. But I made a commitment that when these bad things were happening, I said, I'm going to praise you when it's good. I'm going to praise you when it's bad. And I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to run away. If you bring something else to me and I can run to it, then I'll follow your path. But unless that comes, I'm not leaving. And I will persevere. And it has given me this amazing platform to talk to other people who are going through bad times. It's shown my daughters that, hey, when bad things are going on, don't give up. I want people to look at me in 20 years and say, wow, he's been married for 42 years? I didn't get that legacy with my family. I don't know about your families. Some of you come from amazing families. The parents have been married forever. They're the only people they ever kissed, and they dated, and you didn't have anything go wrong in your family, like Ashley. But actually, like Josh, whose parents were high school sweetheart. But not everyone has that. Not everyone has that. So, where I'll end with this is that start with you. 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 I don't care what happened in the past. I don't care who's hurt you. I don't care what you've done. Start with you. Start with a legacy of faithfulness and loyalty, that when you enter into a marriage, that you say, I don't believe in divorce. I'm going to stick with you until we're dead. And then do it. Believe it and then do it. And live every day to make those around you better. Because you know what loyalty is not about? you. And that's the thing that you're going to battle most with, is that when you make things about you, Satan will come and attack that and say, you know what, there's someone more handsome than he is. Oh, you know what, that person's really talented. That job, whew, that's much. There's always a temptation about you. There's always a temptation to make it about you. But loyalty requires you to take a step back and to give. Jonathan took a step back and said, here is my robe. I will give you my kingdom. Jesus said, here is my life. I freely give it so that you may have everlasting life. So as the musicians come up, as we sing this song, I want you to use this time to think about, where in my life can I show faithfulness? Where in my life do I need to pray about, I've been hurt because of someone's lack of loyalty or faithfulness, whether that's in my job, whether it's in my relationship, whether I did it to somebody else, wherever it is, wherever you are, I want you to think about that. And if you don't have any bad stories, praise God. Hold on, because it's coming. But if you don't have any bad stories, or if you do have bad stories, I also want you to use this time to think, Holy Spirit, where can you use me? Where can you use me? Where can you use me? Because what he's called us to, he's called us for greatness. And he wouldn't ask us to show greatness unless he gave us the power to be great. And the power is not ours, the power is his. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So this week, find opportunities where you can show faithfulness to other people. Let's stand up.
There's nothing worth more that could ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome.
Father, as we feel your presence tonight, teach us and move us in ways of faithfulness that you've been faithful to us. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good job, guys.